Why did Jack keep killing people?
Somebody brought him back from the grave, and I...
Hi, Lisa. It's been a long time since we've seen you up here.
Yes, it has. Nice motorhome.
I want you girls to be careful. There are a bunch of freaks that came in here about a half hour ago. They really look like mean ones.
I am losing my patience. How much longer do I have to sit here? You assholes slaughtered a whole family! Now get this car rolling!
Hey, I got an idea. Let's go in there and show them what monsters are really made of.
If I said that I didn't mean to scare you, I'd be lying.
Society won't accept ugliness. I'm beautiful by comparison.
Hi, this is Hazel Tankster from Voodoo Massacre, and you are listening to the Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues. We're back in 2025 with what else shall I say, than the Linda Blair starring, or kind of starring, half starring perhaps, Grotesque from 1988. And yes, it is a Nathan pick. And yes, we will be holding him to account. This is episode 323. So 2025, a few changes here at the Hysteria Continues. If you're listening, or if you follow any of our social media accounts, you may know that we're moving everything from Instagram and Facebook, and in my account for Hysteria Lives, from Threads as well. We're shutting all those accounts and moving all over wholesale to Blue Sky. So if you're listening, you'll probably know why. That's all there is to it. But we're enjoying Blue Sky at the moment. So we're going to be posting exclusively on there for the time being. So join us. We'll probably come up with some. I think you've just searched Hysteria Continues and Hysteria Lives. You'll find us, won't you, Joseph?
Yep. And I've got all that info ready after all the feedback. So you'll hear it.
Okay, so, anyway, Joseph, how are you, apart from, I know you're very cold?
Yeah, it's, we had a blizzard. Well, I wouldn't call it a blizzard. We had about 5 or 6 inches of snow, and it's still on the ground because it's cold as hell outside, but, I don't have anywhere to go, so it's fine.
Okay, well, it's quite nice to be sort of wrapped up warm inside when there's a bit of snow outside, isn't there? But not if you're taking one for the team, which I know Eric does on quite regular occasions. But and then you don't turn the heating on because you don't want it to be noisy. So Joseph is suffering for his art. So I hope at home you appreciate that. And thank you, Joseph. And Eric, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good, a man of very few words.
Yes, I've got my soundboard back working.
Well, that is
harder. Oh, love me.
Because we did some Patreon episodes last week where I was without my soundboard, but now it's back, so expect me to be pressing it quite a lot.
No, that's ignorant.
There you go.
Yes. Well, yeah. So you enjoyed it while you could, but it is back. And Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm still alive.
Well, that is always a bonus, isn't it? Especially in 2025. So let's have a little chat about what we've been watching recently. So we'll start with you, Nathan. Have you seen anything you want to tell us about before we start on to the main feature?
Yes. Last night I watched Grotesque. Last night I watched Time Cut, the Netflix time travel slasher movie. We had paused Netflix for a while, so I kind of missed it when it first came out. But we got Netflix back again to watch Squid Games. But I watched it last night, and I liked it. I thought it was a fun little time travel movie. It's definitely got some flaws. One of the major ones for me is that I feel like the slasher shenanigans kind of take a back seat to the rest of the film, and I'm like, I wanted more slash. And I also felt that the revelation of who the killer is was so extremely underwhelming.
Really? I thought it was a total surprise.
Well, I mean, it was a surprise because who would have even thought about that?
Well, the way they do it is just really neat with the time travel. I thought was very surprising.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you found that mundane.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed. I was just like, oh, okay, well, sure, that works, I guess.
So you're saying, sorry, Nathan, you were saying a movie where the slasher action takes a back seat. So funny comparisons, parallels to Grotesque, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, true. Grotesque, but Grotesque, it's a different breed of film.
You've got that
right.
right.
I can't lie with that. I can't argue with that even.
It's a very different breed, I would say. But no, with Time Cut, I still enjoyed the movie. You know, I like the characters and everything. So, you know, I mean, I would say it's worth a watch. Right now on IMDb, it's rated 5 out of 10. I'd probably give it a 6, but, you know, that's my Tupperware.
Cool. Well, I think we discussed. I mean, I'd have to rewatch Time Cut. I only saw it the once, so I kind of must admit I don't remember it that well because they all start to merge into one a little bit. These time travel terrors, as I call them on Hysteria Lives. But anything else, Nathan?
I watched one based on your recommendation called The Coffee Table.
Oh.
I don't know if I could recommend this movie. Let's just say this: it's a good film, but I never ever want to see this movie again. It is unbelievably, I don't know, tense, uncomfortable, depressing. It's a pretty wild film for mostly taking place in one location.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's not. I'm kind of curious to show it to Stuart to see what he thinks of it because it's Spanish, and obviously we can speak a bit of Spanish now, but. It is a good film, isn't it? But it is because as I mentioned before, I thought it would be something like when people were saying how disturbing it was. I thought it was going to be something like a Serbian story, and it was not like that at all, is it? It's not graphic.
No, it's like the kind of horror that's I don't know. It feels like real life horror to me, and just I have no idea how I would react in that scenario.
No, it kind of, in some ways, it kind of like the film I kind of say it's most like in some ways, but not in others, is Hereditary. It's got that kind of similar film, although that's much more expansive, that movie, and more fantastical. Whereas, like you say, this one is much more kind of sort of based in reality, isn't it? It's not fantastical at all.
I mean, because when I first watched it, I thought it was going to be, I don't know, maybe, or when you first brought up the title before you said anything about it, really. I mean, the first thing that popped into my head is a haunted coffee table. But yeah, it's one of those movies, if you do plan to watch it, I probably wouldn't go in knowing anything. It's just one of those films that something happens and the whole rest of the film, you know, it's dealing with this one instance. And if that instance is spoiled for you, then I don't know, it's going to take away a lot, I would say.
So, okay, well, I don't know, Joseph and Eric, if that makes you want to see it or not.
What's the basic premise? Yeah. I forgot.
Oh, God, it's hard to give away the premise without okay, so it starts with this couple and they're going to buy a coffee table. It's just very simple. Like the salesman is kind of being a high pressure salesman trying to sell them on this thing. And they kind of get into a little bit of an argument about it. And you kind of get the vibe that they're an unhappy couple that just had a baby. And they're just very unhappy. And basically the premise is they get the coffee table home and they're having a dinner party that night. And something happens, which I can't say what because it'll ruin it. But when this thing happens, it throws the whole movie into a tailspin. And it's how are they going to react to what has occurred? But I can't say it because it's basically the driving point of the movie is that scene. So
where's this streaming? I might check it out.
In the UK, it's on Shudder. That's where I saw it. But
see, when you were describing it as like that, it makes me think of something like Is it Speak No Evil? It was called.
Yeah.
Is it anything like that about feeling uncomfortable and?
Kind of, but in a different way.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, I'm like Nathan. I don't like films that are kind of depressing and mean-spirited and don't have any kind of positive note to them at all. But I did really enjoy the Speak No Evil remake.
It seriously is like just a random thing happens and it basically causes chaos.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'm intrigued enough.
Okay, and Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, the only thing I have to talk about this week is werewolves. which is the new werewolf kind of action horror hybrid that's basically The Purge with werewolves. It stars Frank Grillo as an insanely jacked molecular biologist. I don't believe that. He's trying to stop a werewolf outbreak that's happened before due to a supermoon, and it's about to happen again. So I thought the trailer to this looked really promising, and I think Frank Grillo is one of those could-be superstar action heroes who just can't quite catch that big break, probably because he's subjecting himself to starring in movies like werewolves. I wanted to like this so much. I mean, how long has it been since we've had a decent werewolf movie? Maybe Dog Soldiers? But this was, I don't know, the werewolves themselves looked pretty effective. Mostly practical effects and some not too shabby CGI transformations, but you can also tell they were hiding a lot of the flaws with non-stop spastic editing, and I mean it. The movie never stops flashing. It's like a Michael Bay movie on steroids. Just a constant barrage of noise and flashing lights and 1,000 lens flares in every single scene. You're essentially dropped into the story with no time to care about any of the main characters. Even Frank, who does what he can with the material, he just can't save it, and he's better than this. It's just empty all around. Eric, I remember you talking about one of those Godzilla or Kong movies that got released a few years back, and how it's just this constant barrage of noise and characters reacting to noise, and that's what Werewolves was in a nutshell to me. One day I think a good werewolf movie will flash its head again, but this ain't it. I'm taking none of you have seen this, and if not, you're not missing much.
No, it's from the same director as Silent Night Remake, isn't it? I think we mentioned
think so.
it. Yeah, I think we mentioned it when we were doing the show. Yeah, I haven't seen it though.
Yeah, it's a big disappointment for me.
It's a shame because I was looking forward to that. It looked like it could be sort of good fun, but I expect I'll give it a chance. But anything else, Joseph?
Still watching the Dexter prequel we talked about on the quiz show, but other than that, no, I've just been kind of busy.
Is it still good?
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I like that, like I said, I like that it's a prequel, so they're going over the same stuff you already know, but kind of like that Better Call Saul, they introduce new wrinkles and new storylines to kind of flesh it out, and I like that.
Nice.
Eric, have you seen anything you want to tell us about?
No, but just reiterate two of the items I mentioned on the that quiz show we did, because we padded it out with our recently seen, but just to mention that Vinegar Syndrome bought out brilliant Blu-rays of Blood Tracks and The Ghost Dance, two films that were shoddily transferred to VHS back in the day, and this is, I think, possibly the first time they've had a proper widescreen cleanup, and both of them look excellent. One of them has a commentary with Justin, with Amanda Reyes. The other one has Amanda Reyes with Ewan Kant, and both commentaries are excellent, as always. Actually, I did have one other thing. You mentioned the Godzilla thing, so I watched the most recent Godzilla film. It was showing on Now TV here. It's Godzilla X Kong, A New Empire, I think it's called. And again, it's CGI monsters hitting each other for 2 hours with lots and lots of noise, rapid fire editing. I think it's directed by Adam Wingard, who did the Blair Witch reboot from 2016, which I really liked, but which bombed. But this is real cookie cutter corporate filmmaking. It's just completely soulless. I mean, I love action spectacle, but it just, I don't know what it is with these Godzilla films. I've seen all of them. The first one, is just called Godzilla, I think, was pretty good. But these ones where he's mashed up with Kong are just, I just find them tedious. And yeah, so not a recommendation. It's just lots of flashing lights and colour and explosions and hitting, and it just doesn't stop to take a breath at any stage, and it just becomes boring. So yeah, I saw that.
Okay, well, thank you. Just as Eric alluded, we had one of Joseph's quizzes. God, I'm trying to spit that out. Blimey. And it kind of ended a bit early, so we talked about what we'd be watching over the Christmas break, hadn't we? So
we did that 3 times.
we did that 3 times. So if you're interested in hearing a bit more about what we've been watching, then you can check that out. But a couple of things that I've seen in the last week or so. I started to watch, there's a film that I've always heard about, not always heard about, but I've always been intrigued by, and I'd never seen. And it's kind of quite an infamous movie from 1975 called Thundercrack.
Oh yeah.
So I was trying to find it in various places, and I found it on YouTube, and in a highly cut version, because this is a movie that features kind of basically hardcore porn, but it's about a group of travelers who end up on a stormy night in like the old dark house type of thing from like the old 30s movie. And there's a very strange drunk woman living there who's very theatrical and with really badly drawn on eyebrows. She comes in and someone has a gorilla. And basically everyone has sex with each other, but it's all very quite like kind of John Waters-esque. It's very over the top. And so I've just started watching it. And there's a fantastic scene where the woman who's so drunk that she realised she has to sober up. So she throws up in the toilet and she's got a wig on. Her wig falls in the toilet after she's thrown up in it, and then she puts it back on to welcome her guests. So it's just that kind of movie, really. And I have actually tracked down the uncut copy, and it's full of all sorts of things going into holes and very strange. But so have you seen Thundercrack, Eric?
No, but I've heard of it because it used to play at the Scala a lot in London, which is the famous kind of grindhouse cinema in London. And it's mentioned a lot in the Scala documentary that came out, I think, last year, called Scala, ! And they do mention Thundercrack being one of the tentpole titles that used to come and go in that cinema quite often. I think it's Adam Buxton, the British comedian, says at one stage that some guy at the front of the audience stood up and turned to everyone and said, "Shame on all of you for watching this filth," but then he sat back down again and continued watching it himself.
I need to watch that Scala documentary, actually, because
it's really good.
Yeah. So but I wonder if they showed the uncut version, because I know I saw Salo 120 Days of Sodom, the Pier Pasolini movie at the Scala back in the day, and that was uncut.
I think they did, because I think like if you classified your cinema as a club rather than a cinema, I think you could get away with stuff or something. But they do mention that everyone mentions that they're sitting through Thundercrack going, is this legal? Am I allowed to watch this?
Yeah. So, well, there was that. So I might report back when I watch the whole thing. But the other two things I mentioned quickly, I've just published a review for the new British slasher comedy Getaway, which is written by Nick Frost, who Nick Frost used to more often than not partners with Simon Pegg, and he, of course, I think he made his film debut in 2004 with Shaun of the Dead. And also he's in The World's End. So this is a kind of a movie, and again, it's one of those ones, it's a movie that has a big twist, so I'm not going to give that away. But the basic setup is that this British family, or this English father with two teenage children and his Irish wife, go to the remote Swedish islands, which is celebrating its 200th anniversary of this big massacre by British soldiers that ended with the survivors eating the dead. So like a cheery thing. So they do this big folk reenactment of this tragedy. So very kind of midsummer, that type of Wicker Man sort of feel to it, very kind of folk horror-y. So this British family have turned up to watch this, and the locals are very anti them being there. But they remain. So, and then kind of, as I said in my review, it's kind of, it very much plays off that kind of British comedy of manners, where people are kind of, if someone slaps them, they say thank you, that type of thing, where everyone's a bit embarrassed by things, and so it depends on your kind of your not tolerance, but your liking of British comedy and that kind of situational comedy, and perhaps how much you'll like it. But the second half of it goes into this kind of berserker slasher mode, where I think the body count's about 21. So there's loads of slashing going in the last half an hour, but I won't say any more than that, because obviously people will sort of discover it themselves. But I kind of enjoyed it. It doesn't quite stick the landing for me, but I thought it was pretty funny. So anyone else seen that yet?
Not yet. I wasn't aware of it, to be honest.
What was it called again?
Getaway.
Oh,
as
yeah,
in like getting away on holiday.
Yeah, I saw your review, and I saw Farmer Vincent posted something about it on the forums, but no, I haven't seen it.
No, it's just come out, so just got released streaming a couple of days ago. And the last one I mention is a slash movie, which I'll be putting, by the time this comes out, will probably be on Hysteria Lives. Someone alerted me to this. I'd never heard of it before, but it's called Asylum from 2008. And it's directed by David R. Ellis, who directed Snakes on a Plane. So give you some idea of the quality. Although he did also direct Final Destination 2 and The Final Destination.
I like Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of I'm saying that because I haven't seen Snakes on a Plane for a long time. But if Asylum is any judge, any indication, then Asylum essentially it is a big budget slash movie that got dumped to video. So make of that what you will. It cost about $9 million to make, and it's. What it is you've got like a newly opened dorm, a newly refurbished dorm, which has an abandoned insane asylum next door. Not just actually next, but literally one door separating between the dorm and the insane asylum. So as unlikely as that sounds, these students kind of go in there and resurrect the ghost of this insane asylum doctor, who then turns into a sub-Freddy wisecracking monster in bondage gear who goes around killing them one by one. And it is kind of flashy but pretty empty and very derivative, which isn't necessarily a problem with slash moves, we know, but it's you read my review, but it wasn't it looks okay because it is got $9 million behind it, and it got it was due for a big a wide saturation cinema release, but I think after they actually watched the thing, they decided to dump it straight to video.
I hadn't heard of it, which is weird. Like, you'd think a David R. Ellis directed film would have crossed my radar, but no.
It's one of those movies where it kind of ends, where everyone stands around, watches some bad CGI, and then the rolls credits. So, not a good movie, but...
You're not selling me on this, Justin.
No, but I always find it's much more fun for me sometimes to review bad movies. So, read a review and make up your own mind, I kind of guess. But talking of bad movies, we are going on to the feature of the week. So what do we have in the way of leading us into this momental?
Momental is probably a better term for it.
I haven't looked. Yeah, I'll find something.
Okay. Well, Nathan will bring us back after this when we look at Grotesque from 1988.
Somewhere between reality and illusion is the nightmare.
I've been making my living scaring people for a long time. I'm not about to stop now.
I think I know the difference between what's real and what's not.
Orville Kruger specializes in nightmares. Orville Kruger's greatest nightmare is about to begin.
We really had a big secret up here.
Get the house apart!
Jesus, I think there's a room behind here.
My God, get out of here!
There's a good possibility that your niece is still alive. I want to be part of this search.
There's a party at the Kruger house, and you're invited.
Don't!
Exorcist star Linda Blair and screen veteran Tab Hunter team up for a blood-curdling tale of wanton mass murder and startling vengeance. Young Lisa was looking forward to a relaxing vacation with her family at their remote cabin high in the California mountains. Then, without warning, a vicious band of slavering, mindless punkers force their way into the house and commence a gruesome, drugged-out orgy of unimaginable violence. Unknown to the rampaging young thugs, however, there lurks a hidden presence watching, waiting. As the murderous punks close in on the frantic Lisa, they suddenly find themselves confronted by a creature beyond their most horrifying nightmares, a creature with only one thought in its rage-blinded mind: revenge. So grotesque, or when I was a kid, grotesque, as I thought it was called, is a very interesting film. Because it starts out pretty, how you're gonna expect a movie like this to go. You got the Linda Blair and her friend, played by Donna Wilkes from Angel, who I love. Going to visit, her family. And of course, they run across these thugs that are harassing them and they get away. Then the thugs show up later that night and, torment them and everything. But I guess what's interesting about Grotesque is that it doesn't end that night. It kind of carries on later. And I found myself thinking it's kind of odd because I guess you would have expected everything that's going to happen in this movie to happen in that one night, but it doesn't. I mean, like I said, it carries on into the next day, and spoiler alert, I didn't understand why they had Lisa survive the night only to die in the hospital the next day. I'm like, I didn't understand the point to that.
And off screen as well.
Yeah, it was off screen. We just hear about it, and I'm like, why didn't they just have her die that night? I mean, it doesn't make sense as to why she suddenly is in the hospital and dies there. Narrative wise, I just don't get it, because there was no point in her staying alive. As far as the movie goes, I mean, I wanted her to live, but whatever. So yeah, that part is weird. It almost feels like some of it is just made up as they go along.
No.
I absolutely love the overacting of the thugs. They dial up their performances to like 1 million. And it's just the most ridiculous group of people that I've seen. I mean, especially the main thug, Scratch. I love his name. But yeah, it's so completely absurd. Just the way they behave and just the way they say their lines and everything. And one thing I'll say is that I feel like the ending I saw as a kid, more spoilers, it was the ending where the tab hunter mutilates them and traps them in the room, and then it just goes off. But of course now there's this this other ending where it's just some random theater experience with Frankenstein, but whatever. I mean, I felt like the movie kind of went off the rails after the night of all the horror. It kind of just went completely off the rails. So I guess they just went full force with it. But yeah, it's a very interesting movie. And like I said before, it's a breed all of its own. So what are your thoughts on Grotesque, Eric?
Grotesque. It's an odd movie to be sure, and one I only discovered when Justin covered it on Hysteria Lives, which about 6 or 7 years ago, I think. Its oddness is the fact, as you mentioned, it's about 3 or 4 movies in one. It ditches its main cast halfway through, which, although I'd seen it 6 or 7 years ago, I'd completely forgotten the fact that Donna Wilkes and Linda Blair are sort of no more after the 45-minute mark or so. So it kind of reminded me a bit of Death Proof in that way, in the structure of the plot, in that all the main characters seem to just disappear, and then new characters are introduced for the second half. Because it starts out like a carefree trip in the countryside, a la Friday the 13th, and then turns into a home invasion movie, kind of like The Strangers or something like that. But as you said, the invaders look like they've been teleported in from Death Wish 3 or the Bronx Warriors or something, because they, as you said, they're punks, but they're the over-the-top Hollywood version of punks, or punkers, as they're called within the film, which is a term I've never heard before. I just thought people called them punks. I've never heard people call them punkers. I did like their look, though. I mean, with their spiky hair, and one of them looks a bit like Sheila E., which I kind of liked. Linda Blair's hair as well is something to behold. It's sort of this backcombed abomination, or probably abomination is the wrong word. Is this backcombed beauty and it made her look a bit, I thought, like Karen from Knots Landing. I thought her character of her father was kind of a hottie, but I like that he was this playful prankster, which is usually a role reserved for kind of 19-year-olds, Shelley type people, or Russell Todd in Friday the 13th Part 2. But in this, it's kind of a 60-year-old man, which I thought was an interesting twist on it. And I loved how he was making like home horror movies with his wife, and it really reminded me of your movies, Nathan. It kind of like, this is what Nathan will be doing when he's old and grey as well. And you think the home invasion section, as you said, is going to take up the bulk of the movie, but it doesn't. It's over and done with in 20 minutes, and then it moves on to something else. And it's unusual, I suppose, because you're expecting that to be the film, the home invasion section, but not in Grotesque, no, because then it turns into Humongous or Hell Night for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then it leaves us with 30 minutes of film at the end, where I think this is where the film encounters maybe a few issues. First, we get the extended scene of the shopkeeper walking up to the house, intercut endlessly with shots of the dead bodies that he'll soon discover. And it just keeps doing that. These images keep flashing up over and over again in different combinations, of Donna Wilkes lying on the floor, and then the grandfather lying dead in the chair, and the mother with the throat cut in the chair. Secondly, the police hunt for the killer through the snowy woods, that goes on for too long as well, I thought, and the film sort of grinds to a halt as the two police officers question the two remaining thugs, and they don't get anywhere. They're just constantly asking them to confess to the murders, and they just keep repeatedly refusing to do so, and it doesn't really progress any further than that. And that that interaction, I thought, went on a bit long, but I did love the double whammy ending. It had a Happy Birthday to Me style unmasking of Tab Hunter, where he has kind of a latex visage that he pulls off to reveal what his real face looks like. I liked the freaks like denouement as well, with the baddies being transformed via plastic surgery, and then the fourth wall is broken, and it turns into kind of the Monster Squad for the final 2 or 3 minutes, which was absolutely bizarre, but in a really wonderful way. So yeah, I thought it was a really enjoyable film. I thought the final half hour could have done with some, trimming down, I think. But overall, I kind of really, really liked it. One thing I did take note of, though, is that Tab Hunter's character is this plastic surgeon who seems to be able to work miracles, but his son, Patrick, really, really could have done with some plastic surgery, and he doesn't seem to have made any attempt to perform it on him, which I thought was really rather mean.
Why didn't he make his son a mask like he's wearing?
Exactly, or something like that. Also, Patrick's makeup in it is really shoddy. I mean, it makes the creature design in Humongous look like the work of Stan Winston, I thought. But that, again, adds to the charm. Yeah, I liked this genre-happing attitude. I was really surprised by the way that Linda Blair and Donna Wilkes are kind of killed off halfway through, and the fact that, as I said, Linda Blair is killed off screen as well makes it really strange, as she's the star attraction, you would think. And I spotted the Halloween 3 pumpkin mask in Daddy's effects workshop. I don't know if anyone else spotted that.
Well, one of them puts on the Halloween 3 skull mask, don't they?
At one point. Okay,
I thought so. Yeah,
maybe I missed that bit, but I did spot the pumpkin mask in his workshop when I wasn't looking at his arse. I mean, did I say that out loud?
I was going to say, Eric, if you fancied the dad.
Yes.
Did you prefer him when he was alive or dead?
I prefer him when he's alive, Justin.
Oh, I see. Well, it's only because I know you've got a preference of Bob Hoskins, and
when he was alive. It's a big difference.
Well, allegedly.
Okay, Justin, what did you think of Grotesque?
Well, actually, funny enough, I forgot to look at my review, so I'm going to go completely off watching it last night. For me, it's kind of, I don't know, because everything is so fraught at the moment with world events and stuff like that. So something about going back into an 80s horror movie, for me, just feels like slipping on a pair of comfy slippers and just going into something much more, not relaxing is not the right word, but it feels like it fills me with a sense of joy. And just makes the world disappear for 90 minutes. Having said that, I mean, Grotesque is not a good movie, but it is a fun movie. And I kind of applaud it in some ways, whether it's by accident or by design, that it is so kind of all over the place that you have, like, I won't repeat what Eric said, but essentially you have all these different horror genres and types of genres, including a police procedural for a good half an hour of the movie, which is bizarre. I don't know what you guys, and I know if you guys have found out anything else about this, but without going into too much background, but I did see that Linda Blair allegedly, I couldn't find it in Fangoria, but apparently said to Fangoria that she was unhappy with the title of the movie, and originally it was called something else. And she was very unhappy that they gave it an exploitative title, which is grotesque for me, or grotesque. It doesn't sound like particularly, if it was called, I know, like, Big Butts Goes on Holiday or something like that. That's a kind of, or Big Butts Go Skiing or something. That would be an exploitative title, but grotesque doesn't seem like that. But I kind of wondered whether or not she kind of left the movie halfway through. Because the fact that Tab Hunter turns up at the halfway point after her character's dead and never mentioned at any other point during the movie before, that it just seems a bit odd. And I looked and looked and I couldn't find any kind of background on this. I don't know if there's anything on the Vinegar Syndrome when they released the Blu-ray. But yeah, it just for me, it felt like almost they kind of were literally making it up as they went along. So I don't think any of you guys have heard any more than that or about that.
I could find nothing on this movie.
I mean, it's kind of, the other things you mentioned, there is that bizarre, it kind of reminded me almost like a Herschel Gordon Lewis kind of scene with that person clopping down those steps to the house. And you mentioned this kind of cutting to the corpses, which is a kind of a dramatic effect that could have worked once, but they intercut it about 5 or 6, maybe a dozen times, over and over and over again, to a point of, I don't know what they were going for, but certainly there's no dramatic effect there anymore. It's just bizarre. But I kind of quite like that, because it's kind of, you're just thinking, what the fuck? I kind of, the killer, do they actually even mention Patrick? And does Linda Blair's character even know about Patrick in the house?
She does, because she mentions him at one point. She says, "Oh, how is Patrick?" And the father goes, he kind of tries to change the subject, I think.
Right, okay. So they have this kind of deformed man living in the house because I feel sorry for him, even though they have him behind some kind of bookcase, which is a bit strange. And also, like you said, his makeup effects were just so terrible that they're almost charming, and he looked like he had like this kind of prolapse vagina on his face hanging off like this polyp.
That's not a compliment.
I was going to say he had a scrotal sac hanging from his jawbone.
Well, it was something like that, but it was very bizarre. I mean, the film in itself looked like complete opposite of sophisticated or kind of comfortable, because like it really was snowing there and everyone's running around, including Linda Blair, who had to sort of lie face down in the snow for a while. So it looked incredibly uncomfortable to make it. I mean, Tab Hunter I always like Tab Hunter and stuff. I mean, he kind of embraces everything he does. So whether or not it's like Sweet Kill from 1972, I think it was, or Polyester, he's taken that, Scream Matinee Idol image that he had and then embraces these kind of movies. And I kind of always appreciated that. He always seems like he's having a lot of fun and kind of knows it's kind of high camp and really enjoying it. So I've got mixed feelings about it. It's kind of, it's not a good movie by, any real sense, but there's a lot of fun to be had with it. So that's my tuppence.
Very nice. Joseph?
Yeah, I remember, good and well that we watched this when we were roommates all those years ago, but going into it for the show, I remembered nothing about it. And I think I know why. Grotesque, like you said, it's not so much of a movie as it appears to be more of a hodgepodge of every genre you can think of pretending to be a movie. It's kind of like someone without a clue what they wanted to make. They were handed a modest blank check and Linda Blair's involvement. They picked up a camera and just said, okay, go. That's what it felt like to me. The setup with Linda Blair and Donna Wilkes heading into the countryside, I thought was pretty strong character-wise. I really like both of them. And I also like Linda's mother and father, those characters. Like you said, the father character, he's like this 65-year-old prankster, and I thought that was kind of cool. The punk characters who show up to harass and kill the family, they kind of oscillate between really annoying and deliciously cruel. So you obviously can't wait to see them get their comeuppance. And for a while, we've got like a decent kind of home invasion thriller that turns into a slasher film. But then the movie, just like you said, it ends halfway through and the plot starts spinning a lot of wheels trying to make it to the 90-minute mark. I mean, I will give them points for throwing in a few curveballs and keeping us on our toes, trying to guess where the hell this thing is going. But honestly, for me, it didn't really go anywhere. Once, like we already spoiled it, but once all of the characters we've been following end up dead, and that's everyone except 2 of the punk characters, the last 30 minutes is literally them being interrogated by the local Hayseed Police Department until we get to that twist ending with Frankenstein and the Wolfman. And my God, I swear I'm not making any of this up. This happens in the movie. It's just an absurd switcheroo that says and answers nothing. So, I will say I didn't hate it, but it was pretty darn frustrating coming to the conclusion early on that the movie had nowhere interesting to go for me personally. Also, not the fault of the film at all, but the copy I watched on Tubi was an obviously damaged tape master with picture warbling and like bleachy looking colors. So I couldn't even enjoy the tacky decor and big hair properly. So it's kind of a marginal thumbs down for me, Nathan, I'm afraid, but I will say I kind of admired that it more or less did whatever the hell it wanted, even if I didn't exactly enjoy, what it did for the most part. So yeah, kind of thumbs downish.
Well, there you have it. Gratis Q, aka Grotesque.
Well, do you have any background, Nathan, on it?
Well, no, and I even went to IMDb. The only thing I had is what you guys have already said.
Eric, you said you had a look and you couldn't find anything?
No, I couldn't find anything on it at all, unfortunately.
Well, Joseph, do you have anything?
No, the only thing I can mention is that, maybe Nathan's mentioned this before, but this is one of those titles that we'd see at movies for sale a lot. It was like 100 copies almost. It's like, obviously some distributor just wanted to get rid of it or something. I don't know.
But what about the artwork for it? That VHS artwork is really good.
Yeah, I like the artwork. I will give it props for that.
I'm not sure if I ever saw it on the shelves of my local video store. It did seem to get a release.
I'm not sure if it did get a UK release. It's not one I recall.
On BBFC, it seems to have only got a release in 2003, so it probably went to DVD.
Okay.
Nathan, I actually had a question. If you remember, the media copy that they put out way back in the day, I know it runs like almost 20 minutes shorter. I don't remember. Did that include the Frankenstein and Wolfman ending?
No, because I used to own that one, and I did not see that Frankenstein ending until basically the internet.
I didn't see it until this week when I watched it, so I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah, but it's kind of Joe Tornate, however you pronounce his name, is kind of passed away, I think, some years ago. So I'd love to, if you're listening and you do know a little bit more about the background, you've maybe got the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray, and I'm not sure what they've got on there, then I'd be intrigued about what some of the background information about it. I mean, a few things that I've kind of dug up on is that it was filmed in Big Bear Lake in California. It was what was the other thing? It was co-written by Mikel Angel, who was an actor and writer, kind of known for The Love Butcher, or partly The Love Butcher and Psychic Killer. So kind of two kind of proto slashers from the mid-70s. Who passed away sadly in 2001.
We've not covered The Love Butcher yet, have we? I don't think we have.
No, we haven't.
Oh, we need to. I love that movie.
No, that would be good. And the main guy...
Sorry, just one thing I want to bring up real quick. I'm sorry. One thing I did notice was that Linda Blair was an executive producer on this, so I'm wondering if she obviously has some kind of confidence in it, but like Eric said, she disappears, so it's weird.
I must. Well, I don't know. Maybe everything is so kind of random in this movie, but it's kind of like, say, there doesn't seem to be any sense or reason why she would survive and be taken to hospital and then die the next day. It dramatically doesn't really make any sense.
It doesn't make sense because it's not like she provides any information or anything that's going to move the plot along.
Yeah, they're just like, sorry, she's passed away. I'm like, okay.
And to me, it almost feels like you guys were saying that she just quit or something, and they just wrote it as oh, okay, she died.
I did think I saw her in the cinema crowd of people running away from the terrifying Wolfman and Frankenstein at the end. I mean, it's also Donna Wilkes. It's strange. I mean, Donna Wilkes, of course, was in was in Blood Song with Frankie Avalon, where she gets chased by Frankie Avalon in a forklift truck. Yes, indeed. So, and obviously Angel as well. And it just seems a bit of a weird thing, unless they only got her and Linda Blair for, they couldn't afford them for more than a couple of days shooting, perhaps. That's the only thing I could think. But anyway, I mean, there are obviously some interesting stories that we're not privy to at the moment. But just a couple of other very quick things. One was the main guy that Eric was lusting after, who played the director, who said it's nice to spend time out of Hollywood, which I imagine that director had never been in Hollywood. But he was played by Harry Guy Stockwell, who's, I think, his more famous brother is Dean Stockwell. And he followed this up with a turn in Santa Sangre, which was the is it Jodorowsky film? Or I can't remember which one it is who directed Santa Sangre now. But the celebrated Spanish, I think it's all Mexican horror film, or kind of bizarro kind of circus film in 1989.
Yeah, Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Right, okay, so it was him. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of being in this and that. And of course, another thing, somebody whose face you couldn't fail to recognise is Robert Zadar, who played Eric.
He doesn't have any dialogue, I don't think, does he? Because
he does have a little bit of dialogue. He does speak. Well, I was surprised because I watched Maniac Cop. Spoiler alert for an upcoming review on Hysteria Lives recently, and he doesn't speak at all in that. But I was surprised actually to hear him speak in this. He has one or two lines, not a major amount, but obviously he went on to some kind of fame or infamy or minor fame as the eponymous Maniac Cop a year or so later. So yeah, he appears briefly as one of the punkers in this. And I think that is kind of pretty much everything I've got, apart from the only thing is I found the copyright date was from 1987 on the 1st of December. So it suggests that this was filmed at the tail end in sort of November, December of 1987, given the snowy conditions.
Given their hair.
Well, given the hair as well. And like Linda Blair's hair is really something, isn't it? It's kind of,
marvelous.
Yeah, I'm just surprised when she hit that ice at the end before she dies, that hair didn't protect her brain. But, okay, well, that was Grotesque, or whatever we're going to call it. So what was the consensus on the group, Joseph?
Oh, well, we had 16 comments for Grotesque. Here are the top 3. Metal Mitch, our good friend Mitch King, says, I love it. Probably too much for the quality of the film. I have a thing for characters in slasher films who shout every line of dialogue, i.e. Lisa Loring in Blood Frenzy. And the gang in this film all do it. Cinematic cheese gold. Billy Vidrine writes in with great surprise when I first saw it on the USA Network in the 1980s, possibly on Commander USA's Groovy Movies. It's a weird mashup of a bunch of genres, including Mad Scientist or Plastic Surgeon, Home Invasion, Secret Deformed Sibling Hidden at Home, meta movie that winks at its audience, and, yes, slasher movie. That's a lot to cram into one movie, and then you throw in Linda Blair on top and you'd expect a slam dunk, which this decidedly isn't. But who cares when the end product is so damn weird? It's a shaggy dog of a movie that loses its way more often than not, but I can't help but love it. Apparently there's multiple cuts for television, home video, etc., and I'd love to see Shout Factory revisit this or some other boutique outfit give this strange bad movie the deluxe treatment it deserves. Looking forward to this one. Happy New Year, guys. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Billy. Am I wrong? I thought Vinegar Syndrome released this on Blu-ray, or was it Shout Factory at some point?
It was Shout Factory. You say in your review, Shout Factory released it in a bare bones disc in 2011.
Ah, okay. Well, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. So I thought Vinegar Syndrome had, but maybe not. So
Thunder Twonk. What kind of name is that? That's a name. Says it felt like they had multiple set pieces they wanted to show, and the plot was an afterthought at times. I do think it's a fun, if somewhat scattered watch, though. They really shouldn't have tried to push the twist ending. It just detracts from the movie as a whole. Follow us on Blue Sky at THC-podcast. Listen on Patreon and YouTube to help support the show, or listen wherever you catch your pods if you just want to listen. Write to the show via thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com with movie-related and general feedback, questions, or even death threats. We'll honor them all. If all of that sounds like too much to remember, just Google us. You'll find us. Over to you, Justin.
Okay, but not so much the death threats. You can send those to Toya.
I take that back.
No, I didn't say that really. No, I take that back. But so, I guess all that remains is to have a little chat about what we're going to be reviewing next time.
What about my
whose
joke
turn
of
is
the
it?
week?
Oh, sorry. How could I forget?
How could you forget that little treat I give you every week? Oh, that sounds rude.
Okay, well, let me find the jingle. Dust it off. Here we go.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
What's white and screams a lot because her friends are being eaten by a shark? Donna Milks. Donna Milks.
I don't understand the shark part.
Because she's in Jaws 2 and she screams a lot in Jaws 2.
I think that joke would have worked a lot better if we were covering Jaws 2.
But I had another joke that I left on the cutting room floor. Do you want to hear that one as well?
Well, I'm still waiting for the punchline for the first one.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what my other joke was then. I'm going to punish you.
Is this? Oh, I'm punished, huh? Okay, yeah.
What?
Oh, please, Eric.
Oh, okay. Why did Linda Blair plant some wooden panels and some nails in the ground? Because she wanted to grow desk. She wanted to grow desk. So she put the wood and the nails in the ground and watered it.
Okay, and welcome to 2025, where the series continues. We've still got the same old jokes going. But literally
about
since
growing
2000.
desks. I guarantee you nobody else has come up with a joke about
I'm sure
growing
nobody
desks.
else has.
that one before, Eric. Kudos on that one.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Eric. Before we go, we are just about to record our episode on Lucio Fulci's Enigma for our Patreon feed, which is my choice. And it's in the infamous movie that I hired for our family, including Grandma, when we got it on video, when I took it out on video with my cards. So I'll be talking about that experience and how that went down and talking about the movie. So if you want to hear that, then join us on Patreon upcoming. So, but what are we covering next time?
It's the 14th birthday show. It's your choice.
It's my choice, of course. Well, we kind of had some thoughts about this, and obviously we've been doing this for so fucking long now. We've kind of run out of the big hitters in a lot of ways to mark a birthday. But I think given that we covered Black Christmas for the Patreon commentary, and literally we recorded it, was it literally 2 days before the death, didn't we?
Yeah.
Of Olivia Hussey, yeah.
Of Olivia Hussey, yeah. So we thought actually we'll kind of we'll revisit another maybe slightly less celebrated Olivia Hussey slasher adjacent movie, which is Psycho 4. So we're kind of covering a sort of a bigger title in some ways, in so much as obviously one of the third sequel to was it the grandfather of the slasher movie, Hitchcock Psycho. So so we'll be covering that next time. So join us for our 14th anniversary show. And also, just to say, we have got some feedback from people, which we're very appreciative of. And if anyone wants to write in for the 14th birthday, then please do. But just to say, we are going to keep the feedback for that birthday show. So tune in then. Okay, and Nathan, what grotesquerie have you got for us to play out with?
We are going to be playing out with Walking on Sunshine.
By Katrina and the Waves?
Why?
Well, because I thought it would be a nice juxtaposition to all the horror in the film.
All the terror and nail-biting suspense.
Yeah, we all need cheering up now, don't we? So
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening, and join us over on Blue Sky. And say Hysteria Lives is also on there as well. If you want to see, like Hysteria Continues, I will be shutting down all my Meta accounts. So goodbye Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. So exclusively, if you want to see what's happening on Hysteria Lives, then join us on Blue Sky.
Good riddance.
Absolutely. So, okay, well, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time at the Bates Motel. So say goodbye to the good people.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm walking on